Hello, grade 10s. Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, we'll be doing economics paper 2. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. This question paper was written by the Gauteng Province of Education, Gauteng Province Department of Education, and is downloaded from the Stanmore Physics website. So this was paper 2. It's written 1.5 hours. Please like this video. If you like this video, and I get more likes for this video, I will do another question 2 of another province, and yeah, a different one that was written in a different year, in order for you guys to have 2 papers to refer to before you write. So hit that like button, subscribe, leave a comment. If you don't have anything to say, leave an emoji. It helps grow the channel. So without wasting any more of your time, guys, let's get right into it. So this page here is the cover page, is page 1, and then this one for instructions and information is page 2. Yes, so these are instructions and information. So instruction number 1 says, answer 3 questions as follows in the answer book. Section A is compulsory. Section B, you are given 2 questions but answer 1 of the 2 questions. And question C, which is an essay type question, you're also going to answer 1 out of the 2 essay questions. And then number 2 says, answer only the required number of questions. Answers in excess of the required number will not be marked. So in question 2, you are given 2 questions, but only 1 question can be answered. You can choose whether you answer question 2 or question 3. If you answer both of them, the first one will be marked and the other one will not be marked. Number 3 says, number the questions correctly according to the numbering system used in this question paper. And then number 4, read the questions carefully. Number 5, start each question on a new page. And then number 6, leave 2 to 3 lines between subsequent questions. So when you say 1.1.1, leave a line in between 1.1.1 and 1.1.2. okay, don't just do the other one after each line. So number 7 says, answer the questions in full sentences and ensure that the format, content, and context of your responses comply with the cognitive requirements of the question. If you are asked to list 2 things, list 2 things. If you are asked to explain in full sentences. Okay, that will award you your full marks. If you don't want to do 1 full sentence, do 2 short sentences. 8, use only black or blue ink. 9, you may use a non-programmable calculator. 10, write neatly and legibly. So section A is compulsory. You answer everything in section A. If you don't know an answer, guess with multiple choice question. Just guess if you don't know, okay? It might be correct. So just don't leave it like that. You might have guessed the correct answer. So 1.1 says, various options are provided as possible answers to the following questions. Choose the correct answer and write only the letter A to D next to the question number. For example, you have 1.1.1 to 1.1.5 in the answer book. So let's start with 1.1. 1.1 says, let's zoom it in for it to see it clearly. And then 1.1.1 says, the law of diminishing marginal utility states that the answer to 1.1.1, you look at those answers and you must know the law of diminishing marginal utility. It states that marginal utility decreases as more units of a good are consumed. So for 1.1.1, the answer there is number C. And then 1.1.2 says, a perfect market is characterized by, a perfect market is characterized by homogeneous product. Product are the same, okay, in a perfect market. So it's characterized by homogeneous product, okay? Just know that. If you didn't know, now you know. And then 1.1, so for 1.1.1 is C, 1.1.2 is C. 1.1.3 says market failure occurs when does the market fail? Well, when inefficiencies occur in the allocation of resources and income. So market failure occurs when D happens. Because let's look at number A. Market failure occurs when there is no demand of a product. No. Government intervenes in the market. No. There is an excess supply of a product. No. So for 1.1.3, we take number D. So 1.1.4 says the concept of scarcity is illustrated on the production possibility curve with points outside the production possibility curve. So the concept of scarcity is illustrated on the production possibility curve with points outside. No, that's number B. Yeah. So with points outside the production possibility curve. So 1.1.4 goes for B. And then for 5, a lot of students find the multiplication of economics quite difficult, but you have to know your theory. That is the only way. You must know your theory, study in time. Now we have digital books. Download a textbook, economics textbook, study guide online, and then have it on your book, okay? On your phone. And then you study economics daily when you go to bed, looking at your phones, because I know you and your phones are very inseparable. So you go on Google, and then when you get to Google, you say economics textbook, you say grade 10 economics textbook PDF, and then you will get Via Africa. Via Africa is the one that's quite popular. You can get it for free, and then you download the Via Africa study guide, and then you go through it. It will be like the best thing you've ever done. You still have time. You still have December to nail, and let's show economics what you're made of, okay? It cannot be powerful than you. You are the one who knows how to talk here. So do what you gotta do. So 1.1.5 says black markets are a consequence of D, maximum prices. So when the prices are too high, people start producing the same thing at a lower rate and selling it in the black market. Okay? Like the zamazamas. So yeah. Alright, so here we are on 1.2. 1.2 says choose a description from column B that matches the item in column A. Write only the letter A to G next to the question number in the answer book. So we have column A and column B. In column A, we have demand, value, Pareto efficiency, sacrifice, syntax, and price flow. Now we have to match all these descriptions in column B with the words in column A. Let's look at number A. Number A says the quantity sold at a certain price within a certain period of time. Is it demand? No. Value? No. Pareto efficiency? No. Sacrifice? No. Syntax? No. Floor price? No. A says the quantity sold at a certain price within a certain period of time. It does not match any of what is written in column A. So let's look at B. Minimum price is set above the equilibrium price. A minimum price set above the equilibrium price. That is price flow. Okay? I'm still going to show you the answers on the menu for question this. So in case you have missed a certain answer. So number B goes with 1.2.6. Let's look at number C. Refers to how much something is worth in terms of money or other goods for which it can be exchanged. Refers to how much something is worth in terms of money or other goods for which it can be exchanged. That is value, okay? Value refers to how much something is worth. So 1.2.2 goes with C. And then it says when resources are so allocated that it is not possible to make anyone better off without making someone else worse off. When resources are allocated, when resources are so allocated that it is not possible to make anyone better off without making someone else worse. So there's nothing you can do. Okay, resources are so allocated that if you take something from the other one, you're going to make them worse. So you better leave them the way they are. So that will go with Pareto efficiency. Okay, 1.2.3 goes with D. Yes. Number E, levied on consumption of products which are harmful on human health. That is syntax. So 1.2.5 goes with number E. And then F says the quantity bought at a certain price within a certain period of time. Quantity bought at a certain price within a certain period of time. That is A, demand. Okay? Demand is the quantity bought at a certain price within a certain period of time. And then G, so F refers to 1.2.1. So 1.2.1 is F. G says this refers to a trade-off between two products. A trade-off between two products goes to sacrifice. So 1.2.4 goes with G. I hope you understood that. Now let's go to 1.3. Give one term for each of the following descriptions. Write only the term next to the question number. In the answer book, abbreviations, acronyms, and examples will not be accepted. So you need to give a real word. 1.3.1 says, the point where the quantity demanded is the same as the quantity supplied. That is equilibrium. Quantity equals supply. And then 1.3.2 says demand equals supply. Sorry, for 1.3.1 is equilibrium. And then 1.2.3, a market with many suppliers who sell differentiated product. That is monopolistic competition. I have videos here on the channel that explains a whole lot of this theory with regards to paper 2, so you can check that out. For paper 1, practice especially with your term 1 questions. I have a term 1 question paper for grade 10 economics. You can look at that as well. It will be very helpful for paper 1 because paper 1 you'll be writing about things that you did in term 1. Okay, but in order for you to know economics better, I have videos that will help you with that. 1.3.3 says when the producer does not produce at the lowest possible cost. That is productive inefficiency. A producer must produce at the lowest possible cost. And then 1.3.4 says taxes levied on goods and services before they reach the consumer, but ultimately paid by the consumer at the point of the market price. That is indirect tax. So that is a total of 20 marks for section A. So here are the answers to question 1.1. Here they are, in case you missed them. And this is 1.2. And this is 1.3. That's how that section went. So we're going to be looking at this question paper for question 2, 3, for the rest with a memo, okay? So we'll look at this with the memo so that this video is not longer than it should be. So 2.1, answer the following questions is macroeconomics. And then 2.1.1 says, list any 2 types of workers who qualify to receive minimum wage in South Africa. Who are those type of workers that qualify for minimum wage? We have farm workers, domestic workers, people who you pay them according to what you have. So the South African law has stated that they should be given at least a minimum wage where they should start. Okay, so those are farmers, domestic workers, workers employed on a expanded public works program or whatever. Like, you can check anything that is at least a bit informal, that was a bit informalized, or regarded as a low-level job. they're required to receive a minimum wage. Some things are just what is this, general things that you should know in general. Okay, read and you will know. Just try to read the news on your phone on a daily basis. You will know such things. So what is an opportunity cost? You're asked to explain what is an opportunity cost. An opportunity cost is the sacrificed alternative, the thing that is given up. But opportunity cost is you choosing another thing by giving up another. Okay, not having both of those things. That is opportunity cost in simple terms. If you have said anything like that, because they say any other relevant answer, you have gotten your full 2 marks. Okay, you should know what is an opportunity cost. It's a sacrifice you make. You lose the other one while you gain the other one. You can not having both. Okay, study the following cartoon and answer the questions that follow. Yeah, let's look at this cartoon. Record high fuel prices. Forecast increases will lead to record high fuel prices in March. 2.2.1 says give one factor that can influence the demand of a product. What is one factor that can make a product to be in demand? Like, just think about it. What is one thing that will make a product be a wanted product? Anything you answer that relates to a product being a product that is wanted or an in-demand product is correct. It might be it's in season, the season. It might be, it's in fashion or whatever. As you can see here, it's price, income, weather, change in fashion, change in price of a related product or whatsoever. So whatever that can influence a product to be in demand. Guys, when you answer economics or business studies, think about it, okay? Think about whatever that has been. Don't just answer to answer. Think about your answers carefully and understand your words. If you don't understand any word, Google it, so that when you go into exam, you'll be able to know, oh, demand. When something is in demand, I know when something is in demand, what does it actually mean? So 2.2.2 says, what determines the market price of goods in a free market economy? So what determines the price of goods in a free market economy is the market forces, or forces of demand and supply. That was 1 mark. And then they will say, describe the term supply. You need to give one full sentence. Let's look at this response. Supply is the total quantity of a good or services of a good or service that a producer or seller is willing and able to sell. That is half. But when you say at a certain price during a given period of time, you have completed this sentence, you have earned 2 marks. So learn to answer in full. 2.2.4 says, describe the slope of the demand curve. So what is the slope of the demand curve? The demand curve slopes downwards from left to right because of the inverse relationship of quantity. When demand goes high, supply goes down, or if demands go high, supply goes high. If demand goes down, supply goes down. So it's an inverse relationship, okay? So you can describe it anyhow. And any other relevant answer will be accepted. So why is an increase in fuel prices negatively impact the consumer? That is 2.2.5. How does an increase in petrol affect the person who's buying petrol? That's how you answer. How does it affect? You think about it. It affects them, right? So you can write anything. How does the price of petrol affect your mother or your father? How has it affected them? They now have to limit their wants, right? They now have to limit things that they were still buying because money is no longer doing what it used to do because of an increase in fuel. So an increase in fuel prices will cause the consumer to pay more for transport. Okay? Yes. So 2.3 says, study the following graph and answer the questions that follow. This is a production possibility curve of 2 products, product X and product Y. So identify the curve that will yield better production combinations. So that is production CD. It will yield better production combinations. And then 2.3.2 says, what is the shape of this curve? It's a curved outwards or a convex. The shape of this curve, you should give what is the shape of this curve? So they don't have any other relevant answer. So know that the possibility, production possibility curve shape is convex or curved outwards. 2.3.3 says, briefly describe the term production possibility curve. The production possibility curve indicates combination of any two goods that can be produced with no wastage and using resources to the best advantage. So that is the production possibility curve. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Like this video if you want me to do another video of another year. Like, the more you like, the more I know that you people like this and I should do it again. So like now, if you really like this, like now before you forget. 2.3.4 says, what does the shift in the curve from A to B or to C, from A to B to C and D show? An outward shift in the production possibility curve indicates an increase in production. So when we go from AB to CD, it means there's an increase in production. But when we go from CD to AB, there was a decline or a decrease in production. Any other relevant answer? And then 2.3.5 says, discuss two possible reasons for the outward shift of the production possibility curve. So what can cause an increase outward is an increase in production. Better production techniques used to cause the outward shift. Better level of technology. So it's whatever that improved productivity to increase. Okay. And then 2.4 says, explain 4 factors that will determine the existence of a market. So what will determine, well, here there is a market. A market will exist where there is at least one buyer or seller. There has to be one buyer seller. The buyer has the means to purchase the product. So the person who is buying must have money to buy. The seller has the required products to offer. The seller must have products to offer the buyer who has means to buy. The buyer and seller agree on price and quantity. So any other relevant answer as well. How can you say a market exists? Factors that determine that a market exists. 2.5, evaluate the reasons why the government grants subsidies. A subsidy is an amount that government offers to businesses to be able, for people to be able to afford basic needs. Like bread. Brown bread is subsidized. So you are paying a lower price. The government has subsidized brown bread so that it can be affordable. Yes. So evaluate the reasons why government grants subsidy. Why do they subsidize? It's in order for you to be able to afford basic needs. To benefit consumers, subsidized goods are cheaper, so they become cheaper. Products become cheaper in other countries because the government subsidizes exports. So those are all the answers. That was 40 marks. And then we are on question 3. Remember, in section B, you answer either question 2 or question 3. 3.1, answer the following question. 3.1.1 says, which is macroeconomics, name any 2 social welfare grants which are received by South African. What are 2 social welfare grants which are received by South African? Number 1 is old age pension, child support grant, disability grant, war veteran grant, foster child, and now we have the SRD, the one that came with COVID. It's also a social grant. 350. So we have 3.1.2 says, what is the law of supply? The law of supply states that as the price of a product increases, the quantity supplied of the product increases. And as the price of a product decreases, the quantity supply also decreases. And then we're asked to study the table below and answer the questions that follows. I hope you're following along. Is the marginal utility of bottles iced tea consumed? So quantity of bottles, marginal utility, and total utility then. 3.1.2 says, which bottle of iced tea gives the greatest satisfaction? It's the first one. Their satisfaction decreases as you consume more bottle of teas. Okay, the first one you get, like, it's nice, and you take the next one, you want to get what the high that you got when you got the first one, but you can't. Okay, so the first one is the most satisfying. 3.2.2 says, identify which bottle of ice gives no extra satisfaction when consumed. The seventh one, it gives 0. So marginal utility is satisfaction gotten from consuming a product. And then 1.3.2 says, briefly explain the slope of the marginal utility curve. The marginal utility curve has a negative gradient and it slopes downward from top to bottom or bottom to right. The slope of the marginal utility curve is downward sloping, which explains that the first units yield are more satisfaction, and when more is consumed, marginal utility drops. So that is why you assume it is a slope. The more you consume, the more the marginal utility goes down. And then 3.2.4 says, what is the relationship between utility and the demand of a product? The greater the greater the satisfaction gained from consuming a product, the greater the demand, and vice versa. So that is the relationship between utility and demand. So when I'm getting satisfaction from a certain product, the more I will buy. Okay, so demand will go high. 3.2.5 says, use the information from the table above to draw a clearly labeled marginal utility graph. So this is the information that you have. You use this information to draw a marginal utility graph. And yeah, quantity, you have quantity on the y-axis, and then marginal utility at the x-axis. Or you can have marginal utility, marginal utility as the y-axis, and then quantity in the x-axis. This is how the graph should look like. So 3.3, study the following graph and answer the questions that follow. Agricultural subsidies. So when a price is 25 rand, we have quantity of 90. At 25 rand, we can have a quantity of 90. At 30 rand, we can have quantity of 75. Now the equilibrium shifts from E1 it's a drop in price. So we are dropping the price. When you drop the price, quantity increases, and then equilibrium goes from E to E1, and then supply from S to S1, and then demand stays. It's a straight line. So let's 3.3.1 says, give one example of subsidies that the South African government provides to farmers. The South African government provides subsidies to farmers. They give producer subsidies, consumer subsidies, export subsidies, employment subsidies, and income subsidies. So you can choose either one of those. Okay. 3.3.2 says, identify the quantity produced before the subsidy was granted. It was 75. Before the price went down to 25, and then they were able to produce 90. Sorry. Define the term subsidy. It's financial assistance given by the government to businesses or individuals. And then 3.3.4 says, what is the effect of subsidies on the price of maize to consumers? Subsidies lead to a decrease in price of products. Okay, so that is how, or any other relevant answer will be correct. 3.3.5 says, how would a subsidy on petrol benefit the economy? If the government was to subsidize petrol, how would that benefit the economy? That's how you answer that question. So any answer that makes sense will award you a mark. More vehicles will be demanded and produced because people can afford petrol. The petrol price will decrease and petrol will be affordable. Transport costs and traveling costs will decrease to a drop in the price of petrol. And you can study those on your own. And then 3.4 says differentiate between productivity inefficiency, and allocative inefficiency. So this is the distinction or difference. The productive inefficiency is not producing at the lowest possible cost, and then the allocation inefficiency is not allocating resources correctly. Okay, the allocation of resources is not in accordance with the consumer demand or taste. Poorly allocating resources. So 3.5 says evaluate the positive impact of world markets on the economy. The world markets, the globe, international. How does it impact the economy? Number 1 says global markets offer the opportunity for consumers and suppliers to tap into large markets around the world. When they are selling to other countries, they are tapping into larger markets. They can have access to more capital, technology, cheaper imports, and large exports market. And any other relevant answer will be accepted. Now we're in section C, the dreadful essay question. Answer one of the 2 questions from this section in your answer book. Your answers will be assessed as follows. This is the structure. You must have an introduction. The introduction is a lower order response. So a good starting point would be to determine the main concept related to the question topic. Do not include any part of the question in your introduction. Do not repeat any part of the introduction in your body. Avoid saying in the introduction that you are going to discuss in this body. So this is not a speech, okay? It's an essay for economics. It's not English. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is what I'm going to be talking about. Leave that. That is not what you write in the introduction of your essay. Okay? You will see. And then in the body, you have the main part and the additional part. In the additional part, you'll be asked to give your opinion, critically discuss, evaluate, draw a graph, use a graph to explain or whatever. But in the main part, you'll be asked to discuss in detail, examine, or discuss, analyze, compare, evaluate, distinguish, assess, debate on a following topic that you'll be given. And then in your conclusion, a brief summary of what has been discussed, analyzed without repeating facts already mentioned in the body. So let's say we are talking about why it's important to go to school. You give all your facts about why it is important to go to school. And then in conclusion, you say what you personally think is important to go to school. What you have taken out from reading information that says this is what is important about going to school. Okay? You write it down. Something like you write conclusion, education is the key to success. That's what you have learned. Okay? So a brief summary, an opinion or valued judgment on the facts discussed. Additional supporting information to strengthen the discussion or analysis. A contradictory viewpoint with motivation if required, or recommendations. Let's say we are talking about market failure. In conclusion, you can say, for markets not to fail, this and this and this and this and this should be done. That is your conclusion. Okay? So let's talk question 4, microeconomics. Discuss in detail the characteristics of imperfect market. So number 1, you're going to list all the characteristics of imperfect market and explain them in detail. Give examples, okay? That is for 26 marks. For 10 marks, it's an additional question. How can the government protect consumers against exploitation by imperfect markets? So let's look at this. You write your introduction based on the main topic, okay? Which is 26 marks. It says, discuss in details the characteristics of imperfect markets. Now, we're talking about imperfect markets. In your body, discuss a market. What is a market? Because you're going to talk about market. A market is a place where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services at a price. A market is any place where buyers and sellers meet in order to determine the price and quantity of goods or services that will be exchanged. There are different types of markets, mainly market 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You just give a full sentence that has so much flesh, so much substance to carry that introduction and make somebody wants to go further. Okay? Just make 2 full sentences and you are done. That is your introduction. If you can say a market is a place where buyers and sellers meet to exchange goods and services at a price, you are done. You're still going to get your 2 marks. Even if you say a market is any place where buyers and sellers meet in order to determine the price and quantity of goods or services that will be exchanged. That is your introduction. You are asked to discuss the characteristics of imperfect market. Explain what is a market, or explain what is imperfect market. You have your introduction. And then for your body, you are asked to give the characteristics of imperfect market. The characteristics of any market go by, we look at the number of buyers and sellers, we look at the nature of product, we look at barriers to entry, we look at information availability, we look at the ability of suppliers to charge prices. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you go into your own words, number of buyers and sellers in a imperfect market. There is only one large supplier of a good or service, monopoly of a few large suppliers or a few large suppliers. You know, in perfect markets we have monopoly, oligopoly, and so on. Like, that's what you discuss there. What happens there? So I have a video that outlines this in detail. You can go through it. So that is the characteristics of imperfect market. And then for the additional part, which is 10 marks, the government, let's look at what it says. How can the government protect consumers against exploitation by imperfect market? How can the government protect consumers so that they are not exploited by the imperfect market? You write your own things. You know what is an imperfect market. You understand imperfect market, right? So you know the loopholes and the bad things about imperfect market. How can the government protect people from that? You write those things there. Okay? Give 5 full sentences. You got your 10 marks. And then conclusion. The government must ensure that there are fewer monopolies and oligopolies, as this type of imperfect markets lead to exploitation of customers. What have you learned or realized about businesses in the imperfect market? It's what you do. You come up with a solution. This is a recommendation, right? This is a recommendation that the government should minimize imperfect markets because of the exploitations that takes place. Or what I've learned is that businesses in the imperfect market exploit customers or whatever. As I have said, let's go to microeconomics. The last question, which is question 5. Like this video, comment, subscribe. Remember, the more you like, you will get another one. Discuss in detail state intervention as a consequence of market failure under the following headings: maximum prices, maximum prices, minimum prices, and taxation. So interventions of the consequences of market failure under the following headings. So we're just going to talk about maximum prices, minimum prices, and taxation. So you're also going to give examples, okay? Examples give you marks, so have examples. And then for the additional part, say, how does the South African government attempt to solve the problem of income inequality? Yeah, for introduction, here we are. The purpose of government intervention to ensure, what is government intervention? Is to ensure that the high quantity of resources is allocated to the production of output so that society as a whole maximizes its benefit. And then this is the body, the main part. And then this is the minimum price.